Okay, so now we're here, we can start doing some of the main things like choosing a random word, which sounds really straightforward. And from a programming point of view, it's incredibly easy, but we still need to do it. We also need to find this file. So words.txt is a list of loads of 5-letter words that can potentially be used for the Wordle game. So there's loads of them. I don't know how many thousands. There are 12,972 words. Now you can find any file. I would just make sure you find a text file. If you go onto Google, I search for Wordle word list txt. There are loads. So I won't tell you which one to use because it really doesn't matter. The only thing from a programming point of view you need to think about is you need to get one. You need to make sure you save it in the same directory. So again, if you right click, open in Explorer, you can drag it in here if you're not sure where your directory is, and you can look at the path at the top if you want to find it. Make sure it's in the same directory as the file we're running, and if you want to put it in a subfolder, that's fine, but remember to mention that when you reference the file. And the only other thing you might want to change is depending on what you save it as. Make sure it's a txt file. Mine's saved as words, so the code might have to differ slightly if yours is something else. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make a method that's going to get a random word. So get random word, and I need to open the file. So call it words file equals open words.txt, and we'll open it with read permissions like that. Then we need to load it. So there's loads of ways of doing this. To try and get it on one line, I did it where I went words equals words file dot read, and dot read is going to read it effectively, store the whole of that file inside the variable words, which is great, but we might want to turn it into a list, and then we can use random to choose randomly from that list. So the way you can do that, and because this is going to contain all the special characters for like \n and stuff, we can do split lines, which means it will split it based on those hidden characters for going to new lines. So we've now got a list of all of those 12,000 words stored in this variable words. Close our file, just because it's good practice to not leave them open. And then we just need to pick a random word. So I've got this attribute at the top. Look, self.comp word equals blank. So I'm going to put here self.comp word equals random.choice, which is part of the randoms module. And I'm going to pass it words. So I've passed it a list, and it's going to effectively pick a random item from that list, and it's going to then store it in comp word up here. Now we then want to call this. So when we're initializing our game, we're going to want to get this random word. So here you might want to do get random word like that. So that's going to effectively get a random word, assign it to that early on as I'm building my window, which is probably when you want to do it. Now, for now, I'm going to comment that out, and I'm going to write up here, hello. The reason I'm doing that is we're going to have to do a lot of testing as we're developing this, just to check things are working. We don't want random words because it will drive us, well, it will drive you mental when you're trying to check if things are working and the letters keep changing. If I know the word I'm guessing is hello, it's going to make my testing and development so much easier. So another thing we should probably do, just to move on, I'll do one more thing. In this initialize section, let's add the title. So in the last video, I added an image for the title, which often does look better, to be honest, but I think I picked a pretty poor image. What I'm going to do now is just show you how to sort of affect the font and just use fonts and font style. So if I do self.title label equals Q label, and we'll call it PyQt Wordle. So that's going to effectively be that text in that label, and then we just need to do a couple of things with it. So let's do the long alignment thing again. So title label dot set alignment, and then in here is that Qt dot, it's the flag thing, alignment flag dot align center, like that. So that's going to set the title, align it in the center. We're obviously going to need to add it to the grid, and we're going to want to do some styling. So let's do self.set style sheet. Let's do font size. It's 40 pixels. Font weight, which is something you might not have seen before. Oh, I've done that wrong. Not equals on CSS. It's like that. So font weight is where you can do things like bold and italics and things. So we'll have bold. We want font family. So I think I've explained this before. You pick font family, which is the name of a font, and you can Google for what is common CSS supported font families, because you've got to be careful when you're doing things with fonts for development of apps and websites and stuff like that, because you don't know what fonts are going to be installed on the user's computer. So you want to pick some of the more traditional fonts, would be my advice. And I'd go with, if you Google some of the default ones for CSS, you'll find a list of about 20 odd. And I'd try and stick with them. If there was something I really wanted that was very specific to my design, I'd consider making it an image. So you can still use that font, but if it's not going to change, I'd make it an image and make it appear like that if it's quite unique. So font family, I've gone for I looked for something that looked a bit like handwriting and found Lucidia handwriting. And then I'll give it a bit of a margin going around it. So we'll have margin of 30 pixels on all sides, so 4 times, like that. And then it's just a case of adding it to the grid like we did before. So grid.add widget, self.title label, and we want to add it in row 1, row 0, column 0. We want it to have a row span of 1 but a column span of 7, because we've got quite a lot of columns, if you remember, when we've got our grid. So there you go, we've got our title and our window now, and it is getting a random word, even though at the moment it's not doing anything with it. We could test this out. So we could get a random word here, and just for now we could print self.random word, comp word we called it. So if we run it, words.text I've called it. Where's that? TXT, not text. Didn't notice I did that. There we go. So we can see the comp word first time round will be Sansa. I'll run it again. Saris. I'm surprised they both start with an S, to be honest. Sibs. Come on, give me something. There you go. That famous word of Kabars. I might want to change my my word list to make this slightly easier, but you can see that's working. It's just at the moment we don't want to use that random word, but at least we know it's working. It's always worth testing before you move on. All right, so in the next video I'll move on to making the 25 text boxes we need and try and make it in a more efficient way than just making one after another.